The 15-Point Plan is part of the Win, Make, Give podcast network.
Welcome back to another episode of the 15-Point Plan podcast. My name is Ryan Park Greigg, and as always, I am here with the most outstanding co-host, Jacqueline Smith. Jacqueline, we drop this podcast every Tuesday, and every Tuesday our audience gets a little bite-sized 15 to 20 minutes on a system, right? A system that gives them more energy and it reduces our stress, and it just simply makes our life better, doesn't it?
Yes, we have systems for everything. You know, I always talk about the example of like, you may not know that you have a system, but you have a system for how you get the kids ready for school in the morning. You have a system for what happens when you get home at the end of the day. Do you go and stand in front of the refrigerator and mindlessly shove food in your mouth? Yeah, I've done that. And so, but you know what? You can have systems that support your goals and support the person you're becoming, or you can have systems that, you know, maybe got you to where you are. And so we don't have a lot of systems in our lives, a lot of us, for our energy. And did you know that it's 89% of entrepreneurs report energy as being their number one constraint? And so to me, that's fascinating. Like, it's not time, it's not money, it's not resources, it's not relationships. Their number one constraint for 89% of entrepreneurs is energy. And so this podcast is all about the 15-Point Plan. If you're new here, you can go to 15pointplan.com. There's nothing, we're not selling anything, at least not yet. Just kidding. We're not selling anything for real. You can go there, you can download the tracker, and you can go back in time and peruse through our previous episodes and just start acquainting yourself with the 15-Point Plan. What it is it's 15 habits. They're easy habits that you can do every day. And you simply track them. And at the end of each day, you give yourself a score from 1 to 10 on how do you feel energy-wise, mood-wise. And the point is, over time, you're going to see a correlation between your habits, your daily habits, and your energy and your mood, which really impacts everything else.
It impacts it all.
Yeah.
You can't have any of that stuff without all that stuff, right? And so this system gives us a way that we can follow. So when we start dipping a little bit, we know exactly what to do. Mm-hmm. It's not like, oh my gosh, why do I feel this way? When we do this for long enough, we know exactly why we feel this way.
Yeah. Well, today, you and I got to go on a call with Brendon Burchard, which, if you don't know who that is, he is, I think, like one of the number one, if not the number one, high performance coach. He does a call with our company, Place, every single month. And it's just such a blessing to get to learn from him because he's just a genius in my mind. But one of the things he said that really hit me was that when people are self-focused, when we become self-focused and we start to orient everything towards ourselves, that not only are we going to have a lot of pain and frustration, but we're going to probably start to self-sabotage. That's just like what happens when we get self-focused. And someone asked him, you know, when people get self-focused, they start to blame other people, other things like the market, the president, like whatever you want to fill in the blank, right? Start pointing the finger. He said that the number one reason he thinks people do that is actually because of fatigue. And so he said that, you know, when we're tired, we want to offload pressure, responsibility. And so that's why we blame external things, because we're trying to relieve ourselves of discomfort and pressure, and because we're tired, we're fatigued. And I think that's so true. I think about, you know, different times in my life where I've been in a rut or tired, you know, less energy. And I do tend to do that more. You know, I hadn't put that together before, but I do tend to kind of point the finger more or be more frustrated with things in my life or people in my life, like when I'm tired.
It makes sense. And I can see that in myself as well, which is why I love how he labeled the title of that call, I Am the Problem. Mm-hmm. It made us realize, yeah, you can't blame people. You can't point the finger just because we ran out of energy. Yeah. It's our fault that we ran out of energy. It's our fault that we didn't do the things to systematize our energy and then we crash. And then when
Yeah.
we crash, we go, well, you know what, they should have done this, and they should have done that, and they should have done this. And we point the finger because we just simply ran out of energy. And that's a crazy stat. Like you said, like almost 90% of entrepreneurs. That means basically everybody who's running some sort of business, their limiting factor is just the amount of energy that they have. They're just getting to a point in the day where like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I need to go home. And I don't know, maybe that's a good thing, Jacqueline, because if we had abundant energy, maybe we would just stay in our offices and work all day and never go home to our families. So maybe there's some value in that. But I think that what we're talking about here is having a system to keep our energy up so that we don't crash, so that we don't start blaming other people, and we're not taking ownership of our own life.
Exactly. And there's different ways that you can be fatigued and not have the energy that you need. Like it can be a physical thing, it can be mental, emotional, spiritual. And that's what is so cool about the 15-point plan is that it's not just about your physical health or just about your mental health. It's actually about the whole person. And so there's the 15 points and there's something on there that covers every single one of those: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And so one of the points that Ryan and I were talking about before we started recording was the learning point, because I was sharing with him that I'm rereading a book that I read when I first started in real estate, actually before I started in real estate. It's called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. We've mentioned it before. But I've read it. This is now my third or fourth time through this book. And it's so interesting how I'm like completely hearing, different things than I heard the other times that I've read the book. And that's fascinating to me because it's always been a book that, yes, it talks about real estate, but more than that, to me, it's always been a book about how to think about real estate or how to think about business in general. Like my husband's in construction and I'm reading it and I keep pausing it to tell him parts that I just, read because I'm listening to it this time. But it's a completely different book this time around.
Is it though? Right. And I love this idea because I don't know that we have actually talked about this. So it's cool that we're jumping into something somewhat new on an idea of learning. Jacqueline says it's a completely different book. Well, this book is actually the exact same book, Jacqueline.
Yeah,
it's the exact same book and you're a completely different person. And I love this idea of things are just not going to hit us if it's not the right time for us. And like, look at our buddy Ben Kinney. How many times has this guy told some of these stories that we've all heard? 1,000,000 times. But on the 1,000,001st time, we go, oh my God, that is brilliant. Well, 10 years ago when we heard that, or when we read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, maybe we didn't own any real estate, or maybe we had only sold a couple of houses. Now you've sold hundreds of homes, you own a lot of real estate. The book is the same. You're what's different. And so that's a really cool, eye-opening idea in regards to learning. How many things have we read in our life that maybe we read 5 years ago or 10 years ago, or when we were rich, or when we were broke, or when we were married or single? And now we're just a completely different person. Maybe it's a good chance to go through that bookshelf and look at your books and say, hey, I read that 10 years ago. What would that do for the person that is looking at it today? I love that idea, Jacqueline.
Yeah, it's interesting because on like going back to the Brendon call, just because we just had this call today, you guys. So like it's like fresh on my mind. He said that when we get really self-focused, the other thing that happens is our ego kind of kicks into gear, and our ego wants to protect our identity. And the ego thinks like, I'm special, I'm separate, I'm superior. Those 3 S's is he mentioned. And I was thinking about that. I was like, oh my gosh, like when you are in ego, like self-focus, and you might not like consciously think like, I'm special, I'm separate, I'm superior. But those thoughts, like those mindsets kind of creep in and you think, well, I've already read that book. Well, I've already heard Ben's story. Well, I've already done that, and you actually lose your like curiosity. You lose your desire to learn. And I think that's part of why I love that Learn is on the 15-point plan, because you won't ever stray too far if you look at that every day and think, okay, when was the last time I actually learned something?
I am having a hard time hearing that, Jacqueline, because I'm guilty of this. I'm thinking about this right now where it's like, no, I've done that. I've sold enough homes. In fact, I was the #1 agent. I'm special. I don't need to learn what this guy or girl. I'm superior. Yeah. I don't need to learn what this guy or girl is saying because I've already done this. And then I tune out, and they might have said something that could have totally changed my life or my business. I think that's a really good takeaway is looking at things and going, great, you did that, but that might have been yesterday or last year or a couple of years ago. Don't put yourself on a pedestal and then ignore these messages and stay curious. And I love that you said that because it reminds me of our conversation or the conversation I got to have with our guest a couple weeks ago, Tony Masseri. I just kind of said, like, Tony, how do you do all this stuff? Like, how do you not run out of energy? And he's like, I'm just a curious guy. And so how much more fun is life when we come from a place of curiosity? I get really stubborn when I lack curiosity. I get very stubborn because I'm like, been there, done that. I don't care. And I just kind of become like, I feel like a jerk saying that. Like, the more curious you are, I think the more kind and generous and cool person you are.
Yeah.
Is that the revolution I'm having right now? A lack of curiosity is kind of just like a guy or girl nobody wants to hang out with.
That's much. I mean, you know, those people that, and I think we all kind of slip into it too. We can easily, like you said, just where you don't really, like I said, consciously think I'm superior, but like you're kind of saying that, you know, like I've already done that. I'm better than that. Like I know better. I don't know. I think it stunts your growth really. And that's what, like, I don't remember the exact like way they put it in the book that I'm reading, but they said like after a certain point, mastery, like your growth really comes down to mastery of models. So it doesn't always come from like a new model, meaning like a new idea or a huge shift in your approach to something. It's usually going to come down to the finer details and not these big swings. And so it's like refinement, and it actually compounds and brings exponential growth and scale. But people think that scale comes from these giant, like these crazy ideas, you know? And what this book is teaching me again, or maybe for the first time, is because I'm at this place in my business where I desire to grow, and I have built a really strong foundation. And so I do kind of look, you know, I think I have been guilty of like looking for like the new shiny idea when really it comes down to, it's always the same things. Like in real estate, it's leads, listings, and leverage, right? And so like where in there am I not really adhering to a model or a system that I need to go back and rebuild or refine? So think about that.
I'm picturing like a spiral, Jacqueline, but like a spiral that has a tail and then leads to another spiral. Let me tell you what I'm thinking. It's like when we get into something new, we really want to do well, and therefore we learn as much as we can. Probably. Like real estate, you're brand new on real estate. You're going to hustle. You're going to show up. You're going to learn as much as you can.
Yeah.
Then you're going to get some success, and you're going to feel special and superior, and you're going to stop learning. And you're going to stunt your growth until you get over that, and you spiral out of that. But that's going to be, it's like, it's cyclical. It's like, okay, well now I've hit this other level. Now I'm superior again. Now I'm special again. And we stunt.
Yeah.
And I guess what I'm telling myself and maybe our audience is, what if we could just stay curious and stay learning and not put ourselves into these plateaus where we've decided, you know what, I'm good for now. I'm good for now. And then we spend a year being good when we could be great much quicker. I want to expedite the greatness.
Yeah. Well, quit telling yourself that you're superior and special. Just kidding.
Quit telling yourself you're superior and special. Stay curious. And
you are special, Ryan. You're so special.
Well, thank you. My son and his friends think so too.
Yeah. So I guess the moral of the story for today's lesson, for your little 15-minute dose of the 15-point plan this morning, or whenever you're listening to this, is never stop learning. Stay curious. Notice if you're slipping into the superior, special, separate mode, because that's your ego. And keep an eye on it, because, you know, life gives us these little breadcrumbs and these little lessons. And, are you fatigued? Where in your life have you been neglecting? Where are you running on empty? If you start to feel frustrated and like no one around you can do anything right, and you're pointing the finger, take a look at your habits. Like, have you been skipping workouts? Like, have you been eating well? Are you hydrating? Are you sleeping? Are you doing hobbies? Like, give yourself a break. Are you journaling? Are you taking time in the morning for mindfulness, for prayer, for meditation? Are you doing these things? Or are you, have you stopped doing some of the things that used to really bring you joy and give you a break and keep you grounded in something bigger than yourself? And so that was my reminder. Just always keep learning and stay out of that ego, self-focused.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Your ego is not your amigo, I once heard. And I also heard your ego, EGO, is an acronym for edging God out.
Ooh.
Jacqueline, real quick, it's like when we said, if we're starting to feel superior, we're starting to feel negative and we hate the world around us, here's a quick tip. Write down 3 things you're grateful for, fill up 16 ounces of water, leave your phone in your house, go for a 20 or 30-minute walk in nature. The rest will come into place when you get back. I promise your life will get better if you do that for 30 minutes.
And then get a good night's sleep.
Get a good night's sleep. It's a new day. It's a fresh day. Today is your day, dang it. And don't forget to check all the past episodes of the 15-Point Plan podcast at winmakegive.com. Come check Jacqueline and myself on social media, Jacqueline Ray Smith and Ryan Park Greigg.
Catch you guys on the next episode.
We'll see you on the next one. Bye, everyone.
Bye.